Hey all, so this is war number 6 against ISO8. We fully expect them to put up a good performance, and as always, their defense is completely stacked. So this was the first time we'd seen Nimrod on defense, or not on defense, but in this particular spot before. And funnily enough, it's a friend of mine placing this. I've mentioned before, but Cap Communist and I used to be officers together years ago now, and we still talk occasionally. But it was funny that I'm only taking 4 fights this war, and 2 of them are his defenders. But this Nimrod is definitely a good placement, because the whole thing with this node, Power Struggle, is that it's usually fairly easy because you push the opponent over a special, immediately launch yours, and then you don't have to worry about being caught without one. Except that Nimrod inflicts a special lock on you, so you can't do that for a second and a half, and it's difficult to get that much time in. So we weren't entirely sure who to use here, because then when you throw your special, if Nimrod is in one of his 2 modes, he will then power drain you, which could interfere with the next bar that you gain. So I had considered going the long route with Venom Pool because you'd be eating the armors and regenning, and that part would be really easy. But ultimately we decided to go with just Torch without the pre-fight, because I was saving the pre-fight, and it ended up going pretty well. So you see me doing extra parries here at the beginning, just to build up some smolders and some temperature, because we want to nuke as best as possible without without needing the pre-fight. So also notice that we have the debuff siphoner pre-fight there from Reed to make the incinerates that much better. And we've been trying to strategically refresh it by, putting that heavy in the middle of gaining our combo, and also then the special. I figured at some point in here he probably would throw a special immediately after the heavy. I also figured that was okay because he was gaining enough power, thanks to the Energize, that I knew I could get back up there without him gaining too many Furies once I actually got into the node. So, like I said, waited for the special lock to wear off and then just stepped back into it. At this point, he's basically already dead. So he only threw one special where we didn't want him to, and thanks to Energize, we had plenty of other room to just, shorten our combos, block, turtle up, and prevent him from throwing the others, and then it becomes a very simple torch fight. This Eye-Hulk I've taken a dozen times. You've seen me do this before. There is going to be a weird input thing in here, but similar to that other node, notice that I'm doing some extra parries at the beginning here. That's actually to build power. And then see right here, we're right at the end of our strike counter, and I parry again and throw the special without landing another basic. Now there's the input thing. I did try and heavy right away, took a minute to land, so we ended up getting hit twice and then brute force triggered. But not the worst thing in the world, because now I have plenty of power. So I did make sure to throw that other heavy because we want to hold on to that power advantage that we just paid for with 15% of our health. So to make that count, we're going to keep playing through the node and trying to get everything down to 1 of each kind of basic before throwing the special to maintain it. I think I actually do mess that up at one point in here and throw it early, but holding on to it as long as possible keeps the Furies down. See right there, I could have done like 1 more medium, but that's okay. At this point, we have him down into his immortality. Could hit into him right there, but he's only at 15 gamma anyway, so it's not like we're going to be interfering with his regen, and we don't want to be over there while he's unblockable, and then when he goes unstoppable. Then all we need is a couple combos to finish it off. Good to go. So, unfortunate to get hit, but Killmonger has great crit resistance, and like I said, it actually gave us an advantage for the rest of the fight. Skip ahead, I was back up in section 2 because I needed to be ready for this particular fight, which is Iron Man Infinity War on the Rage Miniboss. This has claimed quite a few victims this season, from our alliance, from alliances we've faced, and from a lot I've heard about. And I suspected before going into this, but especially after doing it myself, I think the biggest problem is people are just playing Torch too much like Corvus. I talked about this a little bit in my Torch guide, which I'll link in the description, but one of the things to remember about Torch is that even though his simplest, most distilled combo is medium light medium, there's no downside to doing a full 5-hit combo with him, unlike with Corvus. And so you can play more aggressively to get ahead of things like high ground, or to manage the opponent's power, to manage your power, to make sure that you have a certain combo, like we do against high ground. Now, we're not fully keeping it in check, because you do have to be a little bit careful against Iron Man to make sure that he doesn't get up to 4 armors and parry you. That's how you can absolutely lose the fight. But we are keeping it much lower than I've seen in some of the other examples of this fight. And just now we're losing the Reed pre-fights, and that's okay because it was more important to me to land more hits and get that charge of high ground off than it was for me to land a heavy. Now right here with him under 18%, we have not triggered Rage yet because I only health boosted and small green boosted, no attack boosts. That's what I was saving my special 3 for, because that's going to give us a few more power stings, a couple more Nova Flames, and this is probably going to do it. Comes really close. That might have been enough on its own, but I figure, yeah, one more hit. If that had triggered an armor up, then I would have backed off, baited a heavy. I still had plenty of health for it. So as you saw, ended there over 70% health, despite high ground gaining. You just have to make sure that you're willing to extend your combos with Torch when the situation demands it. Now, it's still possible for that fight to go horribly, because maybe he just gains a ton of armor ups and you have to back off to make sure you don't get parried. Maybe he doesn't throw heavies, maybe, there are a number of things that could happen with RNG and the AI to make it very difficult, so I'm not saying a death there is inexcusable, but most of the ones I've seen so far could definitely be avoided. So just something to keep in mind. So moving on to this Yellowjacket, obviously putting him on Power Focus 1 means more special 1s, which means more opportunities to mess up the evade and get tagged, so I stopped in between these two fights and went and did a couple duels to make sure that that didn't happen here. But the other thing to possibly worry about here, other than just playing the node and not messing up Hurt Locker, is that this fight is probably going to be long enough, with enough specials, thanks to the health boost from the Miniboss, that he might go into Meltdown. And then I'm going to need to back off, and then high ground has a chance to stack up. So we want to be careful of that. We want to be mindful of the possibility, and we're going to look for an option to build up to a big special 3. Because it doesn't matter if high ground is building up if I never have to block him again because he has 30 bleeds on him. So that's kind of the goal here. We're trying to just manage the special 1s, watching his charges build up, but overall play nice and carefully, stack our bleeds, and as soon as we hit 15, we're going to start building towards a special 3 so that we can end this all at once. Note about dueling for this one: whenever you're facing Yellowjacket or somebody with specials like this, make sure you work on the evades at multiple distances, because it's not always going to be possible for you to be exactly where you want to be. So another thing to note here, just with playing Killmonger in general, we're closing in on the special 3, but Reverb just went into cooldown. We are going to have to block one more hit. The important thing is just to keep True Strike up, because that's the thing where it's harder to play around. Bait out that last special, got in one more bleed, blocked a hit, backed off, through it. So I didn't expect the special 3 to kill him, but watch this. 23,000 in direct damage. Now that is not the first tick of the bleed, that is all the direct damage from deep wounds itself, which, does a percentage of health for each bleed if you have more health than the opponent. So I knew it would hurt him. I didn't necessarily know that it would finish him off there, and that was pretty enjoyable. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Unfortunately, we did not win this war. We did not have a good one. Don't need to dwell on that too much, but ISO8 also had a typically good performance and only died 3 times, so this one would have been a bit of a lift anyway. Hopefully we can tighten up going into the second half of the season. I've been saying that a bit much lately, but, you know, we are trying to fix things here and there, and I do think it's possible. This one was odd. A number of our deaths were from people who just had taken those fights before multiple times flawlessly, and something went wrong this time. So hopefully those truly are flukes. But I'm going to be working on some stuff over the Thanksgiving holiday, so look out for that. If you want to make sure you catch it, remember to subscribe, turn on notifications, maybe leave a like, and I will catch y'all next time. Take care.